For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools, and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man and birds and animals and creeping things.
Thank you, Dave. Today we continue the series that I began last Sunday called Knowing God. If you were unable to be here last Sunday, I encourage you to go to our YouTube channel. Just look up on YouTube and type in Turlock Church of Christ. You'll be able to see all of our videos that we upload every week. And the opener to this series, I encourage you to see that or hear that if you can, please. Today we're looking at part 2 of this series called Knowing or the Real Reason. So let's start all the way at the very, very basics here. Why did God create the cosmos? Why did God create our planet? Why did he create our planet the way that he created it? The real reason for the cosmos, the planet, is that God made a place for people. The reason that he did this is because he wanted to create and build a home for his family. And the real reason God made you was to give you a chance to know him and to decide how much you want him. That's what this whole time on this planet is really about. It's an opportunity for us to get to know God and then make a decision about that, whether we want to be with him forever after this or not. Do we want God is really the operative question of our day, I believe. This idea that I'm projecting here is really the heart of the gospel. The gospel is basically the good news that God created a good and gracious, wonderful place for us to live. And he wants us to enjoy this place, and he wants us to be guided by moral laws that give structure to our lives, protect our lives. But the real reason that we live and the real reason why we have life is not to enjoy those gifts that God gave, nor obey those laws that God gave. The real and actual reason you exist is for you to know God. Period. There is no greater, higher aim in life than for you to say, I not only know about God, but I know him. And there's a difference, isn't there? Say yes. There's a lot of people that know about God. Lots. But the purpose of this series is to bring to our minds and our attention and our focus that God doesn't want us just to know about him. He doesn't want a long-distance relationship. He wants an intimate, close as you can get relationship with us. That's the heart of the gospel. This loving relationship between God and his people is the core of everything. Our purpose, our fulfillment, our delight, our very life itself comes from this relationship. Simply this, we are made to know God. So, to not know God means that you do not, or anyone does not know what they're made for. To reject God is to reject the meaning of your existence. To reject God is to be totally disconnected from your own purpose and your own significance. The moment anyone denies or ignores or replaces God with something else is the moment they embark on a life poisoned by meaninglessness. Because if God didn't make this and He didn't make you, then all you are is an advanced amoeba. You're soup that learned to walk. You're a biochemical robot that responds to the stimuli of your environment. And I'm telling you, that is not all that I am. I am a son of God made in His image because He told me so. This phrase, well, I'm only human? Nope, I'm not only human. I'm also divine in nature because someone divine made me, and He made me in His image. Doesn't make me God, oh my word, no. But it doesn't make me only human. And this is the reason why the theory of evolution is so destructive. We are the product of a loving God. If not, if evolution is true, then we are the product of random forces over billions of years. If there is no intelligent creator, then the very first thing that the Bible says is a lie. Someone tell me the first proclamation of Scripture. In the beginning, say it louder. I'm going to give you another shout because you guys weren't ready for that. I'm sorry, I do this to you all the time. I want you to quote the first verse of the Bible. Okay, so the very first proclamation that the Bible said is, the very first thing the Bible said is God created the heavens and the earth. If evolution is true, then the very first thing the Bible does is lie to you. Because evolutionism says there is no God and we were not made by a God. It all happened because of random and bangs and cells and soup and amphibians and you know the story. If there is no intelligent, loving creator, then the Bible is a lie. And that is the very intention of Darwin's disciples, is to remove the credibility of Scripture. Has anybody in the church ever heard this out of Psalm 14:1? The fool says in his heart, there is no God. Did you know that that's not the entire verse? Did you know there's something that follows that? In fact, the thing that follows that defines what the word fool is. The fool said in his heart, there is no God. Then it goes on to tell you what that means. They are corrupt, their deeds are vile, and there is no one who does good. And I found out this past week that the word fool in the Hebrew means much more than being ignorant or naive or an imbecile or simple-minded. That's only a very shallow meaning of the Hebrew word. The thrust of the word fool in the Hebrew is to be, listen to me now, right now, wrong-headed. There's a difference. It means that I reject God's moral and spiritual values. In the Hebrew, a fool is a wicked person. If you read the book of Proverbs, God has harsh things to say. If it's somebody who is naive or someone who is ignorant, He wouldn't have such harsh things to say. But the reason why people are naive and foolish is because they've darkened their hearts. They've rejected God's laws. Evolutionists and atheists have motives to remove God as creator and thus nullify the authority of Scripture. They want to lift any restrictions on behaviors, especially the ones they crave, obviously, right? So This is the reasoning. By the way, as many of you probably don't know much about me, but before I was a Christian, I was an atheist. An actual, real, debating Christians knew what I was talking about, atheist. Well, at least I thought I knew what I was talking about. And I want to share some things with you, and I've had a lot of really interesting conversations with other people who are now Christians who used to be atheists. And I've actually helped a number of atheists become disciples of Jesus Christ. Atheists have a motive to remove God, because if you can remove God, then you remove the Bible. If you remove the Bible, you remove the law. If you remove the law, there's no sin. And if there's no sin, there's no judgment, and there's no hell. And I can do whatever I want as long as I want to without any accountability or repercussions. Did I make it clear enough for you? I can't tell you how many atheists I have heard and read from who became Christian and said the real reason that I was an atheist was not because of the science. It was because I didn't want a God telling me what I couldn't do. I was one of those. I wanted to do whatever I wanted to do, and I didn't want to feel bad about it. So if you can take God out of the picture, you take out the sin, and then you take out hell, and you can do whatever you want to and sleep all night. And I did. I had a very clear conscience when I was an atheist. I didn't start feeling bad till I read the Bible. And that's the intention of Scripture, isn't it? It's to convict that person to say, you may think that's all right, but it's not. And what I'm saying to you today is the reason, I'm hoping to help you understand the real reason why Darwinism has gained so much ground in 100 years. It also explains why creationism and biblical Christianity has lost so much ground in 100 years. And the reason for that is not because of the science. I don't know if I'll ever do it, but I've been watching a YouTube channel and listening to and reading a lot of articles from Answers in Genesis. And these are PhD scientists who are now looking at our world saying that God made this and you can't miss the evidence. It's so refreshing to hear people who aren't just pounding pulpits, but these are guys who have advanced degrees in biology and geology and all those sciences, and they're looking at our world going, absolutely, this was designed by a designer. But you see, evolutionism has just spread all over the globe, the Western world mostly. And I think one of the reasons why you'll find in the first chapter of Romans. So if you have a Bible, and I really hope you bring one when you come, I really hope you do, but I want you to go to Romans chapter 1. So the premise is this, that God created us and this place so that we could get to know Him intimately. But something entered into the relationship and ruined it. What was that? Say it again. Sin. People acknowledged God, but then sin came and the result was a tragic separation. People divorced themselves from their faithful God in order to indulge their passions. This is something that the Bible says all the way from the very beginning to the end. But here in his great treatise of the gospel, here in one of the most impressive, grand manuscripts of the ancient world, one in which people who don't even believe in God but study ancient texts highly regard the book of Romans by Paul because of its intelligence and its structure. It's an amazing book. And in the first chapter of this book, the apostle explains why things are the way they are. The real reason. It says in verse 18, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against ungodliness and unrighteousness of men." Now watch this. Keep going. "Who, by their unrighteousness, suppress the truth." Isn't it amazing that everybody has the truth? Isn't it impressive? Everybody who's ever lived on this planet has access to the evidence that God created it. Every single person has the truth available to them. But it's clear that the reason why they don't believe in God, or the reason why they reject the truth, is not because there isn't evidence. It's because they've suppressed the evidence. Haven't you ever had a conversation with someone and you're confronting them with something they do and they just can't accept the fact that they did that? Their pride won't let them say, "You're right, I did that and I'm sorry." No, they just keep hearing the evidence, but they don't accept it. Anybody been in a conversation like that? Last week, maybe? Right? You keep saying, "This is what you did. This is what you did." "No, I didn't." "No, I'm not like that." Well, actually, you were like that when you said that. And so, the reason why people don't know God is because they are suppressing the evidence for God. And other people are suppressing that evidence. I venture to say that no one was ever born an atheist. Children are not atheists. In fact, they're the opposite. Whenever I preach in different areas, in camps and in youth rallies and different things, the children are the ones who want to do what God says. They stand right up there and they want to do it right then and there. They're always willing to please God. When you hear a child pray, what do they pray? "God, thank you for the sun. Thank you for the butterflies. Thank you for the puppy dogs. Thank you for the kites that fly in the wind." Who are they giving credit to? Nature? Mother Nature? No, Father Nature. The one who made the wind, the one who designed the ecosystem, the one who made the butterflies. Did you know that God made puppies? I'm glad he did. I'm a dog person. I've heard some people say, "I'm not really a dog person." To me, it sounds like I'm not really a happiness person. That's what I hear. I mean, how can you be around a puppy? Oh, my word. I know I'm going to get in trouble for this, but my wife loves puppy breath. And I don't like that breath. No, seriously. Some of you know that odor. Because that puppy doesn't want to just be down here. What? Right here. "Hi, I'm with you. Wow, you're fascinating." And I'm like going, "Whew, come on, give it a break." And Becky's like, "Oh, I just love that smell." God made everything for us to enjoy. But here's the issue. The issue is not the evidence. Verse 19, "For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. That which may be known about God has been made manifest." God has done everything possible for his children to get to know him and to know what kind of God he is, so that they might possibly love him and trust him. Amen. Then in verse 20 it says, "For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power, divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world and the things that have been made." And this is the Bible's way of saying the proof is overwhelming. That what? God made it, and the God who made it is a great God who made it. Now, the proof is overwhelming. That doesn't mean people admit that or want to hear that and why is it that when people get into their senior years, they want to travel? Have you noticed? I have. People retire like, "See you later." I'm thinking about somebody right now I haven't seen in weeks and weeks and weeks. And I've seen him today and probably not going to see him for weeks and weeks and weeks. Because he's free to go and look and explore the world and visit people and see things. And the older I get, the more I did that. I recently took a trip up to Oregon. I enjoyed that immensely. It was a beautiful place. I've never been in that part of Oregon before. Who's ever been to Crater Lake? I almost saw the whole lake except for the smoke. But I mean, that's just, you look at that and you're like going, God must have slowed down when he says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to build this volcano, and then I'm going to fill it with water, and I'm going to keep it full of water. I love it. You see, isn't it amazing that the proof is everywhere? And the more I look at this world, the more I want to look at this world, the more a brilliant builder is obvious. The expansive macrocosm and the complex microcosm reveal God's creative talent. Scopes show us the scope of God's creativity. The James Webb Telescope is up. It's doing its job. It's taking pictures that Hubble took, and now people don't care about Hubble's pictures anymore because the James Webb Telescope is far more defined and clear. And I love it. Every time I look at one of those pictures that comes in the news saying, here's why we spent those billions of dollars, and I see these galaxies and these nebula, and I'm just like, wow, God did that. That's my reaction. But also, microscopes reveal. I would say that the James Webb Telescope showeth his handiwork. I would say the electron microscope proveth his attention to detail. Because when they go look down and they start looking at things that we couldn't see even 10 years ago, but now we can see, and they're starting to look inside the strands of DNA to see how it works. Interesting that people who are geneticists and specialize in DNA science are struggling to hang on to Darwinism because there's no way that complexity can evolve from simplicity. And there's nothing more complex in our world that we know of as DNA. So it says at the end of verse 20, it says, so they are without excuse. If anyone's ignorant, it's not because God didn't provide the proof. If a person doesn't want to know God, it's because a person doesn't want to know God. Boy, that's worth repeating, isn't it? You guys want to join me? The reason a person doesn't know God is because that person doesn't want to know God. And thus they are without excuse. In verse 21, and although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him because, they became futile in their thinking and their foolish hearts were darkened. Today in the Western world, the academician, the scientist, refuse to thank the very person who has created what they're fascinated with. In our public school textbooks that we pay for with our tax money start all the way at the primary grades when it starts talking about the world, and they always start with the same sentence, ... billions of years ago. And so the indoctrination begins at the earliest reading ages. Those books don't mention God or an almighty architect. They live in denial that we live in a design because they can't use that language because it implies what? A designer. And so what happens when somebody divorces their thinking from the knowledge of God? According to these verses, the result is the same thing as when you pull a lamp cord out of its socket. Darkness. So, those of you who told me earlier the very first thing the Bible said, can you remember the very first thing God created out of the 7 days? The first day, he spent all day doing one thing, and that was what? And God said, let there be light. You know that God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all, 1 John 1:5. Jesus was on this very same subject when he said, when John wrote the gospel, and he said in John chapter 1, verse 5, he says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through him. He is not the light, but he came to bear witness about the light." Verse 9, "The true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not" what? Know him, because they didn't want to know him, because he is the one telling them, go and sin no more. You know, that's just basically saying, you need to stop what you're doing right now and not do it anymore. Well, when you're telling somebody who really loves that behavior they're into, they don't want to hear that, do they? Most people don't. And so, even though he was the light of the world, they didn't recognize him, and they chose not to know him. Over in chapter 3, beginning at verse 19, Jesus is talking, and he says, "And this is the judgment. The light has come into the world, and the people love the darkness rather than the light, because their works were evil. For everyone who does wicked things hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his works should be" what? Exposed. Why are bars so dark? They're not brightly lit at all. There's a reason for that. And so, are people in the dark about God? Yes. And again, Jesus reinforces this idea. The reason why they don't know God and the reason why they're darkened in their understanding is because they don't want to know God. And so we see in verse 22 this amazing statement. Claiming to be wise, they became, there's that word again, fools. Not the absence of intelligence, but the refusal to be righteous. That's the meaning. This gets down to the very heart of the matter, doesn't it? The real reason why things are the way they are. God is available, and God is knowable, and God wants people to know him. But sinners don't want to know God because they know that if they believe in God and they know who he is, then they are going to be held to his moral code, not theirs. And that moral code contains mores and values that they do not want in their life. And that's the reason why they reject the proof, and they reject the light, and reject the truth. And so here we have it, Romans 1:22, the great paradox, right? Claiming to be wise, they what? Became fools, which means they don't know that they don't know, which is the ultimate darkness, isn't it? And so in verse 22 through 25, you see the exchange. If we won't worship God, we're going to end up worshiping something or someone else. Basically, us. We are going to worship ourselves. If we won't worship God, we're going to worship nature. Humanism is rampant. 100 years ago, we thought that man's technology and science was going to overcome all the problems of the world. And here we are 100 years later, and yeah, science is pretty impressive with things it can do. But you know, after 100 years of super advanced technology, we're now starting to think, maybe technology might be a problem. But the big thing we find out is even after 100 years of all this advanced science and technology, the human heart hadn't improved much, has it? Amen. And we're not the only ones saying that. Bible Christians aren't the only ones saying that. We're looking at our society, and hate is at an all-time high. And that's people going to church and people not going to church. And why is there so much fury and wrath? Because if you don't believe in God and follow his laws, you're going to make yourself a God, and you're not going to tolerate somebody interfering with that. Don't you dare say I can't do what I want to do. Man, that is America right there. That's America. That's our whole thing. I'm ruggedly individualistic. Don't you dare say I can't. Yeah. And I could talk about the worship of nature and how high it is right now and how it's so popular and the wave of activism that is on our way, and it's going to all be about climate change. And people are going to become violent about protecting Mother Earth. And that's because obviously the Mother Earth is, we need to protect our planet, and we need to stop hurting our planet. It's a gift from God. You don't want to mess it up. Amen? But if you ridicule the creation account and you indoctrinate children on the theory of evolution, they're going to exchange the truth of God and His Word for a lie. So what is that lie? The lie is that man can be his own God. That's the lie. That we should worship and serve ourselves and not anyone else. This lie goes all the way back again to the Garden of Eden. This goes all the way back to the very first recorded lie in the Scripture is when Satan told Eve that if she ate that fruit, she would be like God. That's the lie. And that's the lie he told her way back then, and she believed it and bit into that fruit, and so did her husband, and we're all suffering from those consequences. But you know what? God built them a home, and then He built them. And it says that they used to enjoy walking with God in the cool of the day. And it dawned on me as I was constructing this message, I think that God enjoyed that more than they did. Have you ever thought of that? That when He made them and they were in love with one another and they're in the garden, I think that God just couldn't wait to come down there and walk in that garden with His two kids. This is before sin messed stuff up. But then there was a lie, then there was sin, and then there was die. And every single person in this room has done that. We heard a satanic lie. We doubted in God's goodness. That created a pressure within our flesh. And we made a decision, a conscious, deliberate decision to rebel against God's will. And the very first consequence of sin is the absence of intimacy. Our closeness with God was killed. Now, I'm not talking about Adam and Eve anymore. I'm talking about you, friend. At some point, you knew God, and you knew what God said, and you made a choice not to do that. And when you did that, came the separation. The intimacy was gone. You know what's amazing, though? God still wants to walk with you. Some of you wanted to walk with God again, and so you repented. You stopped doing the things you don't want me to do. And you learned more about Him. And you followed Him. And you follow Him today. Some of you, that's not the case. And so the question is, what's holding you back? What's holding you back from that intimate walk with God? We'll talk more about that as we go into this series. You guys have done well. Thank you. Stand up, stretch out, open up those lungs, because Joe wants to sing another song. Let's stand up.